Today on the podcast, I am sharing one of those stories that reminds you of just how strong women can be. My guest today went through years of trying to conceive, only to be told by doctors that IVF was her only hope. Despite what she was told, she managed to prove them all wrong. But just when she thought her miracle had arrived, she experienced the heartbreaking loss of her baby. But that wasn't the end of her story. And what makes this conversation so powerful is what happened next. This is a conversation about resilience, hope, and what happens when you refuse to give up on your dream of becoming a parent. Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so that you can stop stressing that you'll never have your baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I am so honored to be able to sit down today with my beautiful student, Sally, whom I've known for, 2 years now? Oh my gosh. You trace it all back, it goes fast, doesn't it? I met Sal when she was in the middle of her trying to conceive journey, and she had already been through quite a lot by that stage. And then she got to the point where doctors had told her that IVF was pretty much her only option. But as you are going to hear today, that was far from the end of her story. So, Sal, I am so honoured to have you. Thank you for coming into the studio.
Thanks for having me, Jen. I'm so excited to be here.
Just for a little bit of context, would you like to share with everyone who's listening where you're from, starting to think about the beginning of your fertility journey and where you were at when we met?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am local to Sydney, but this is my first time meeting you in person. So exciting.
So cool.
In terms of my fertility journey, my husband, Ty, and I got married in November of 2023. And about 6 days after the wedding is when I stopped taking the pill. We were ready to go straight away.
Relatable.
Yeah. So, that was sort of the start of our trying to conceive journey. I did try to approach it with a realistic mindset, knowing that, we're both not in our 20s anymore, so it might take a little while to conceive. But I think secretly I hoped that or thought that, it would happen within a few months.
I think we all do.
Yeah. You never expect that it will happen to you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was us sort of end of 2023, sort of start trying, nothing really happening for the first 6 months or so. I was going to wait until 12 months to start any fertility investigations, but my GP at the time said, you're over 30. I was 33 at the time. And she said, if you want to come in and start doing some of those investigations, we can do that at 6 months.
I only wish more doctors were like that.
Yeah,
That is not the norm, is it?
I know, no, it's not at all. But she was a young woman GP. I think she had gone through some fertility struggles herself. So she was really good actually. So it was sort of mid-2024 when I went in for some initial investigations, so doing the usual sort of blood work, AMH levels. The doctor referred me for a pelvic ultrasound, and that all sort of came back quite normal. Everything was sort of within normal ranges. There was no obvious impediments to why we might be conceiving. The only thing that sort of came up was on the ultrasound, they showed just a small uterine polyp that they couldn't really say whether that might be something or not. And around the same time, my husband had some sperm analysis done, and he was very happy with his results. His doctor told him that he could hang them on the wall.
Oh my God.
It was so good.
I can't. What is it with these men that come back? They're like, I get a gold star. I'm like, well done you.
Yeah, congratulations. Of course, that puts in your head then. It's like, oh.
It does.
Who's the problem then?
It really does put that in your head. Yeah.
But I suppose, obviously, it's good to rule out issues with one partner. That was all kind of, around that 6 month mark. And not long after that is when I found you, Jen, and joined your fertility yoga program, which was right as I was about to start some appointments with a fertility specialist. So we had an initial appointment with a specialist who sort of had a look at all of our results, referrals, and said, not really sure what it might be, but, we can start to look at fertility treatments and sort of go down that road if you're not conceiving. We didn't really want to go down that road straight away, but she did refer me for a hycosi ultrasound to sort of check out in a bit more detail what was going on with me and my body, and to see, if there was anything happening there. So the referral for that was, I was going to do that after the start of my next menstrual cycle. And lo and behold, that next menstrual cycle didn't come. So I got my positive pregnancy test I think it was about 10 days after that appointment. It was quite funny. The specialist had said to us as we were leaving, just this like funny joke that she did offhand, which I assume she says to all of her couples, but she was like, I've got magic chairs, so I might not see you again. So we got up and left, and then, we didn't see her again. So we had our positive pregnancy test at home, which was just so exciting. We were both just blown away that it had happened. It felt like finally, of course. Even 6 months just feels like such a long time.
It does.
When you're going through this sort of up, down, over and over again. But so we went for our initial GP visit, had the blood test to confirm that I was pregnant, and she gave us a referral to have a dating ultrasound in a few weeks' time. And then, when we did that ultrasound, that's unfortunately she did show that they suspected it was going to be an embryonic pregnancy, or what sometimes is called a blighted ovum. The body basically thinks that you're pregnant, but it just doesn't progress. Doesn't really get any further than just a little gestational sac. That was quite horrible. The sonographer in the ultrasound appointment sort of told us straight away, this is what it looks like it is. You need to see a doctor to confirm. But it was a shock. We didn't really have in our minds that it would just go wrong so quickly.
No, and it's when you have never been through loss, you kind of have this naivety that all you need is the positive test, and it's like, well, once I get there, done, all my problems are solved.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you realise that there's a whole other world of things that can go wrong, and that's really hard.
Yeah, definitely. So that was sort of a little bit of a chaotic process. After that, we thought, oh, okay, well, we better see the GP straight away, and the GP my usual GP wasn't available for, I think, about another week. So we just went and saw just as any random doctor at the medical centre. But the doctor that we got wasn't, I guess, not very experienced in this sort of pregnancy and fertility space. So he didn't really know what to advise us. So he sort of advised, well, why don't you head down to the hospital and they can have a look at you at the early pregnancy assessment clinic. So we did that the following day. And the midwife there took one look at the ultrasound report and said, I wouldn't necessarily say that you are having a miscarriage based on this report. It might just be too early to say whether or not your pregnancy will progress. She had asked me, and the sonographer had asked me a few times if I was sure about the dates of my cycle, and I was. I'd been tracking pretty closely, so I didn't think that it could possibly have been that wrong. But, that kind of put that tiny little seed of hope back into our heads, which, I suppose she just, people give you the information based on what they have in front of them. But a few days after that, I did start to miscarry naturally at home. That was unfortunately sort of the end of that little chapter of our journey. I was quite surprised by how long the whole process took. Not having gone through a loss before, or sort of really understanding how much it takes out of your body. You think that it's going to be maybe this just big dramatic moment and then it's over, but the whole process was quite drawn out. Over several weeks, HCG levels taking quite a long time to return back to zero, and then we were advised to wait a couple of cycles to try again as well, which of course is just the last thing that you want to hear.
The longest time.
All you want is to just reset and start again. So that took us to the end of 2024. So what's that, a bit over a year since we first started trying. And in the months after the miscarriage, I did find myself struggling a lot more with the cyclical nature of getting your hopes up and then dropping them again. The whole process was really weighing on me, so I started seeing a therapist during that time as well. And then we got to the end of the year and thought, okay, why don't we try again with the fertility treatment option? We'll see another doctor and just see if we can, if there's any other options or if they, can see anything that might be the issue. The end of 2024, in December, it was only a few days before Christmas, we had an initial appointment with a fertility specialist who referred me again for a high COSI because I hadn't had it done back in July. So she gave me that form to do after the start of my next menstrual cycle. She was a lovely Irish doctor and she said to me, I don't think you're infertile. I think you will fall pregnant.
Good. Thank you for that.
I was like, thank you so much.
And I already did fall pregnant,
nice
so thank you.
Yeah.
Things these doctors say.
I know, they just,
months worth of them.
But about 3 or 4 weeks later is when I got a positive pregnancy test in January of this year. Mm-hmm. And that became my daughter, Rhiannon, who's now 6 weeks old.
Goodness. Thank you for sharing your journey, Sal. There's so much I want to dive into. This shift from when you were saying, you were kind of happy to go along and be trying, but once you'd had your loss, it was very apparent what could go wrong. And these 2-week increments that we live our lives in, like the devastation when you get your period and then you get all so excited leading up towards ovulation. You're like, this is the month, and then it happens again and again and again. What did that look like for you, and how did you find that it started to show up in your life? Did it have an impact on your relationship? Did you find that it was making everything else difficult too?
I definitely do think it was making everything else difficult. It's exactly what you just said about living your life 2 weeks at a time. It was, really draining, that sort of that up and down cycle. And no matter how much you tell yourself, don't get your hopes up this time, just try to be cool. Whatever happens will happen. You just can't help but think, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the one. And I was definitely one for sort of that symptom spotting, every single twinge, everything that happened in my body. It's so interesting, that feeling of being so aware of every feeling in your body, but also feeling so disconnected because it's not doing what you want it to. Yeah, so it did impact me a lot, and I was finding myself really struggling with those first few days of my cycle every month. That was probably the main prompt. Ty actually said to me, do you think maybe it would help to get some support and some professional support to talk to someone about how you're going with everything? And I did find that quite helpful, and that was alongside your fertility yoga classes that I had been doing for about 6 months by the end of 2024. Yeah, which I also found really helpful. Something about that was sort of, I did feel that the stress and the pressure and anxiety about trying to get pregnant felt like such a block for me of being able to get pregnant, even though I knew that I could technically. I just felt very blocked.
It is such a minefield, isn't it? You think everything's getting in the way of you getting pregnant, and then at the same time, you're desperately trying to do so many things to help yourself at the same time. It's a wild ride, isn't it? My goodness. What drew you to using yoga and meditation on your fertility journey? Was it something, were you a yogi from before? Was it something that was new to you? What was it that made you jump in?
It wasn't, the yoga generally wasn't completely new to me. I've sort of done it on and off since I was a teenager. My nan was a yoga instructor into her 80s.
Wow.
Goals. I know, right? That's just sort of always been in my family, and we've just always known about it, I suppose. So I didn't have a regular practice when I started taking your classes, Jen, but the Instagram algorithm, all knowing as it is, led you to me.
Thank you, Meta.
It's just as soon as it figures out that you're trying to get pregnant, it's all you get. And then as soon as it figures out that you're pregnant, it's just, it always finds you where you're at, isn't it?
But I'm very happy it brought us together.
It did. I think, like I said, I felt like the stress and anxiety about trying to get pregnant is what felt like it was impacting me being able to get pregnant. I had always had a really regular 28-day cycle until the month that we started these fertility investigations, and my cycle suddenly dropped to 17 days. And I just felt so disconnected and just out of control of what was happening with my body. So I was kind of looking into, I guess, stress management techniques and different things that I could try during this process. And that's sort of how I found the idea of fertility yoga, which really struck a chord with me straight away. And then, your classes specifically.
I hear that over and over again. It happened to me like exactly as you described. I had this perfect 28-day cycle where it was like 2 p.m. Thursday, I could predict my period would start, right? And then you get into whatever might be going on in your life. For us, it is this really difficult journey of trying to conceive. And I see this so often with my students. It's like as soon as you realize something isn't working and all of those stress hormones start taking over, your cycle goes completely haywire. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, am I going to ovulate this month? Or am I going to have like this really short cycle and then a long cycle? And it's like, well, now I've got a new problem that I didn't have before. And it's such an awful place to be. And, people talk so much about stress, and yes, we can get pregnant if we're stressed. We know that that's not always the end of the world, but it can make life really difficult and it can really throw off your cycle in a really obvious way. So I think that's really important to point out. And we do need to be able to find something, and yoga is not for everyone, and that's fine, but you need to find something that works for you that's going to help regulate your stress levels. So thank you for pointing that out. I think that we get very siloed in these situations and think we're the only one that it's happening to, but it is such a common thing. I always get asked this, and I always ask my guests this. What do you think it was that you did differently the month that you got pregnant with Rhiannon? And I know that usually it's so many things. It's not like this one magic pill that everyone wants to know.
Yeah.
But do you think there was something that was different?
Part of it, I think, is like it is interesting to me that both of the times I fell pregnant were right after seeing a fertility specialist. So even though I hadn't gone down the treatment road yet, I think in my mind it was someone else taking some of the responsibility off me. And I felt like maybe I was about to get the answers that I was looking for, so I was putting less pressure on myself. The other thing I did in the month that I got pregnant with Rhiannon is the most woo-woo thing, and I don't even know if this is worth mentioning. But
we're down for it.
It was New Year's Eve, and my friend had told me about this tradition in Spain called the 12 grapes. And it's it's a Spanish tradition, and basically what happens is you get 12 grapes and you eat a grape with each of the 12 clock bell strikes at midnight on New Year's Eve to welcome the new year. And each grape and then the corresponding clock bell strike represents one of the coming 12 months.
This is so good.
So you have your 12 wishes for the year. And my friend told me about it, and we just thought it was this funny like Instagram meme. But I was like, well, you know what? It's the middle of summer. I would love some fresh fruit. So I'm going to have my grapes at midnight and I'm going to make my wishes. And I went all in. I wrote out my list of wishes for every month of the year. So I started with my positive pregnancy test in January, and then a dating ultrasound in February showing a healthy pregnancy, and then in March telling my family about my pregnancy. And I went all the way through to December this year as our first Christmas as a family of 3. Oh. And I ate the grapes at midnight, and 14 days later I got a positive pregnancy test.
And all those months came true. I want to cry.
Yeah. And it turns out that we conceived on New Year's Day, not to get too technical. But yeah.
I absolutely love that.
So look, it might be nothing, but hey, it was worth a try.
I feel like there's so much in what you said there, both with the doctor and the grapes. But this idea of being able to be like, do you know what? Something can lighten the load for me. Yeah. I am going to take all of this heavy stuff and just give it to someone else. And whether it's a doctor or the universe or whatever it is, there is so much value in that. And just saying, I don't have to carry all of this on my own. I'm just going to put my trust in that things are going to work out. And that can be their problem. Yes. So thank you, universe. Yeah. I will eat the grapes, and now it's up to you.
I love that.
What kind of things did you notice in your life that were different, whether they were physical things or mental or emotional things that you found having this regular yoga practice really made a difference with?
I felt an immediate change in the very first class that I did with you, Jen, when you instructed us to do legs up the wall, the Viparita Karani. And you mentioned sort of as you sort of fold your legs down and come out of the pose, you might notice some tummy rumbles. It means your body is entering that sort of rest and digest phase. And I felt that so strongly. Like it was the loudest tummy rumble. And I just thought, oh my gosh, yeah, this is for me.
I love it.
Yeah.
When you see those like really clear things that are happening within your body. And like you said earlier to that point you made about you feel so acutely aware of everything, but at the same time you feel so disconnected and so frustrated with your body. So being able to connect something that you're doing to some kind of outcome is huge.
Absolutely. And to feel a change in your body and feel like it's a positive thing that's happened. Oh, it was great. And I think having that routine of that practice and having it synced to my cycle really helps me feel a bit less helpless in the process as well. Like it sort of felt like, okay, well, I've got my period this month, but now I can move into this sort of phase of my yoga practice and my other cycle syncing activities. And it sort of lets you, I found that it gave me space to sort of let go of the pressure and stress a little bit and to lean into the natural rhythms of my cycle and make me feel that everything that was happening in my body was as it should be. So, yeah, I feel it really helped me restore that trust in myself and my body.
It's amazing. And did you find that your cycle got back to a more consistent place?
It did, yeah. I'm
got a lot of disruptions.
It did, yeah, but I don't think there was too many more weird cycles after that. After I started doing those classes, I did get quite into the sort of the full moon and new moon rituals as well. Yeah, I found that really nice to sort of take that time to notice, just go outside and look at the moon. Yes. It's so nice and grounding.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you forget for centuries that that's how women kind of like live their lives. Yeah. That was just a huge part of what was going on. And we do this with the full moon and this with the new moon. And it's such beautiful ancient wisdom. May we all have a grandmother who's a yoga teacher. Maybe that's, that's what we need. But I love these practices, as someone who I didn't grow up in a religious family, this idea of handing over to a spiritual guide was initially really hard for me because it wasn't something that was practiced for me. But being able to trust in, maybe there is something bigger going on here. Maybe there is a greater purpose or something going on that I haven't really gotten my head around yet. And being able to trust in that a little bit was powerful, I found as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you say that. Something that I think really helped me get through the weeks and months after my loss was thinking of all the women in my family and beyond my family who had been through similar things before. And I found out from, a few different female relatives that they had gone through losses and miscarriages I didn't even know about before. But I was and I still do sort of imagine that as stars in the night sky and the way that we're all connected there. It's just this sort of beautiful tapestry of womanhood, I suppose.
Isn't it? To think that like our grandmothers were looking at the same stars that we were.
Yeah, absolutely. And just they were living the same cycles that we were and going through the same things. And yeah.
I love how inadvertently this conversation has gone.
I know.
This is awesome. Is there anything that you did within your life, any other services, or you mentioned that you saw a psychologist, which is, I think, a really important thing for a lot of people to do, being able to, we assume that our partners and our mums and best friends are therapists sometimes, don't we? Was there anything else in your life or that you found helpful, or if you want to expand on that a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So while we were doing, I guess, some medical investigations, I just sort of tried to focus on the stress management in the background of all that because that is what I felt most strongly was a block for me. And also just because I felt so unhappy. Yeah, so that was kind of that was my main focus. So yeah, the fertility yoga and meditation was a really beautiful support. And then the therapy as well. The therapist that I saw is a perinatal specialist. So I found that really helpful and I found her brand of therapy very complementary with the yoga as well. She sort of encouraged that meditation and a lot of those mindfulness exercises and breathing. So they both sort of went hand in hand. I guess, DIY'd an approach to things like nutrition, supplementation, that kind of thing without sort of seeing any professionals really.
It can get overwhelming.
It can, yeah, just like a lot of appointments and comings and goings, and but those were kind of the main things that I did. And then I tried to sort of enact a lot of those cycle syncing, I guess, I don't even know what the right word is, enact a lot of cycle syncing throughout my my cycle as well.
What did that look like for you?
I think mostly informed by the exercise and just being really conscious of how my body was feeling in each phase of the cycle. I tried to do a little bit of like dietary stuff as well, like iron-rich foods around your period and that kind of thing. Yeah, I wasn't the most strict with that, but yeah, it was nice to even just to be aware and a bit more present in your body and knowing you might feel a bit less energy this week or more energy next week or that kind of thing. Just even being aware of it I found really helpful.
I agree. And I think that's the biggest gift that it can give you, because you can also, as I did, go completely the other way and get a bit too obsessive. I can only eat watermelon on these days. Like
totally.
I went a bit nuts. But for me, really what you said, the exercise piece was the most powerful part of cycle syncing. And I think back to when I was in high school and all those days where they're forcing you to do sport or go swimming when you've got your period. And I just felt like doing absolutely nothing. And just to be able to grow up thinking that your body is not the same every day of the month, wouldn't that have been a gift? And
Absolutely.
Just having to learn all this stuff later in life was, I mean, it's good that we did learn it. But it's one of those things I feel like our ancestors knew and we have unlearned. It's so frustrating. But yeah, the exercise piece, even now I'm 43, I'm no longer trying to conceive. And for someone who was told she had possibly gone through menopause at the age of 34, my cycle is now so regular, so consistent. I have no problems anymore. And I still lean into these ideas of cycle syncing. And it's like you said, so lovely to be aware of your body and what your body needs. And that in itself, I think, is a gift. So then we can get to do that for the rest of our lives and you get to teach your daughter these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love it. Is there anything you would go back to newly married Sally and say to her, knowing now where you are?
Yeah, I think there is. I think if someone was able to tell me when I stopped taking the pill, you'll have your baby in about 2.5 years, I would have been able to just enjoy that time. And instead of spending it like panicked that something was wrong and it was never going to happen. And I would have really relished our last time together as just us, just myself and my husband, and doing the things that are harder to do now that we have a baby. So I do wish that I could go back and tell myself to take advantage of that time and to try not to, I think, and I'm sure you've heard this a lot from your students, but such a type A personality. And I think, okay, well, this is my problem and I have to solve it. So this is all I'm focusing on. And it really did consume me. And I know that just relax is not helpful advice when you're trying to conceive. And if I was listening to this and I heard someone say that, it would make me furious. And it can be counterproductive. But I do think that you can give yourself the tools to accept your journey and to try and surrender into the process a little bit. So that's what I would tell myself.
That is much better advice than just relax because, you'll slap anyone that tells you that. But you're right. You need to find ways to manage your own emotions and your mental health and just to make your life enjoyable again, because otherwise it just becomes all consuming.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, Sally, I have loved this conversation. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this space with me today and sharing your story and everything else as well. So big thank you to you.
Oh, thank you, Jen, for having me.
Thank you for listening right to the end of this episode. And if you found this conversation inspiring and you would like to learn a little bit more about these practices for yourself, at the end of this month, I am hosting, due to popular demand, it wasn't meant to be coming back this January, but we're running it a little earlier than we intended. I will be hosting a free 3-day live fertility yoga training event called Embrace the Journey. So this is where we get to start diving into so many of the practices that Sally spoke about today, and you'll get to see for yourself how powerful they can feel in your body. You'll have a chance to come and meet me, ask me all your questions, and start adding to your own toolbox of ways that you can support and optimize your fertility journey. So for all of the details and to get registered, there is a link down into the show notes. And if you have any questions that come up about that series, please let me know. So until next time, I am sending you all of my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility. The most common thing I hear from students is that the stress of trying to conceive has taken over their life, and they have no idea how to get back to a place of calm, peace, and regulation. This January, I am hosting a free 3-day live fertility yoga event. In this series, I will be taking you through my exact process for helping you move through this. We start by giving you the tools to help regulate your nervous system. We then work with your cycle to support your hormones and to know which practices support you at each phase. And lastly, and what I think is the most important part, is that I'll help reconnect you with your body and rebuild the trust that is needed to bring your baby home. I've taken hundreds of women through this process, and what I hear time and time again is that these practices give them back that sense of peace that this journey takes from you so easily. And it's something that you'll carry through with you to motherhood and beyond. So join me. We start on January 28th. Visit elementpilatesyoga.com/waitlist or click the link in the show notes, and I can't wait to see you there.